Guys, welcome to the Hitting the Curbs podcast in the special edition. Well, we got an interview for you that's going to come at the very end. But let's start off with the F1 recap at Spain, the Spanish Grand Prix. After the wild weekend of racing we had last week and this weekend, we're going to review kind of what occurred. So chaotic qualifying kind of began the week when it rained and shuffled up the order. So let me, just so you know these results, let me go through it. Now, interesting enough, Lewis Hamilton led Q1 with Norris and Russell second and third. Q2 saw Verstappen, Norris again, and Sainz 1, 2, 3. But notables out of both of those first two sessions, Leclerc out of Q1, 19th. Another notable, Valtteri Bottas 16th and Perez 15th, right on the cusp. Then in Q2, Russell, Sergio Perez, both out, which leads to Hülkenberg, both McLarens in, Q3, the top 10 shootout. And then what's even crazier enough was the top six were all different constructors.
Mm-hmm.
Max Verstappen got pole, after he was dominating the weekend by a 0.4 of a second gap to Sainz. Norris was able to get third with Gasly fourth, and then Stroll beat Alonso for the first time this year. But that chaotic qualifying was for nothing. Well, because Verstappen led every single lap, got the fastest lap after not only topping qualifying in every practice session. It was a perfect week. You couldn't write it any better if you were a Max Verstappen fan. And the only thing besides that was Mercedes got the podium. So I asked you, how would you guys kind of rate this week? Qualifying was chaotic. Did it kind of spoil your expectations for the race?
I would definitely say that qualifying definitely. I was definitely interested by that because seeing Carlos Sainz apparently he qualified second. That was my I believe that was my pick for the for last episode, and it was kind of cool seeing him doing that. Well, and I thought it was cool also seeing. I thought it was interesting seeing Lando Norris up there, getting third in qualifying. That was interesting seeing McLaren doing something. I was kind of surprised. I mean, often we've seen the McLaren isn't really up there, and so seeing them in the podium was definitely a surprise there. Over the race, things sort of did mellow out there. So I'd say it was like a 7, like 6.5 out of 10 for me personally.
I believe the qualifying was much better than the race. Verstappen domination, and myself being a Red Bull fan, it was a little. I obviously enjoyed Verstappen domination, but I was left with a little bit of a sour taste after Perez couldn't get up to the podium. I mean, he was pushing as hard as he could, but it just didn't happen. He started so far back. Conversation on Sergio Perez opens again, in my opinion. But the weekend as a whole, qualifying was definitely the best session. You had some crazy outcomes. Of course, Norris starting P3 and Pierre Gasly qualifying P4 before getting a grid penalty. Qualifying was the best session, which doesn't show well for F1. But at least we had something this weekend.
And the question that this leads is that the kind of only battle we're seeing, as I kind of said before, we saw the Mercedes, swept the podium, but the only battle we're seeing is really for third in points at the moment between three drivers, and then second in constructors. And to be honest, second in constructors is looking like it may not even be a battle because Stroll just won't step up his game entirely. He's kind of been the second fiddle, kind of the worst second driver, in my opinion, on the grid, comparable to how Nick DeFries is doing in the battle between him and Sonoda. So if you were to compare teammate pairings this year, Aston Martin's one of the worst because you can't be in the second best car and perform as the seventh best driver on the grid.
That
That's
that's just. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, sorry. Everyone understands why Stroll's in that seat and why he's in that seat. But it just the season's just looking like it's getting more and more boring because the only storyline currently is between who's going to get third. Is it going to be Hamilton? Is it going to be Russell? Or is it going to be Alonso? So it's going to be interesting to see how that battle shapes out. But after this race, does this kind of just mean that what is it? Do we just kind of already say that Verstappen's champion? You know where I'm trying to go with this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it already just too far gone?
Well, I think I believe Christian Horner said himself during the weekend that the other teams would have to claw in so much they would have to claw in so much resources just to get a very slight advantage. And so I would say that pretty much for the other teams, they should just be focusing on 2024. I mean, that's what Red Bull's probably going to do anyway, because Verstappen, he could just take the car and just send it to another dimension.
I believe that Red Bull could lose a second a lap for the rest of the season, and Max Verstappen would still win the championship. That's just how fast they are.
Yeah,
It's crazy how much pace they put in the Red Bull this season. To your point about Lance not carrying his own weight, but the question becomes now: is Aston Martin really the second team on the grid now? Because Mercedes
it has to be Mercedes.
has definitely stepped themselves up. So it was fun seeing Alonso on the podium at the beginning of the year, but I'm afraid we're not going to see that very much throughout the rest of the year because that Aston Martin has finally been topped by Mercedes, and it'll probably fall down the order to Ferrari when Ferrari brings major upgrades and McLaren. I don't know exactly how far Aston Martin will fall, but this shows that they have the ability to just fall down the order. But I am interested to see the battle between Hamilton and Alonso for third in points. Right now, Alonso has him by 12 points. So it's definitely close. So I hope Alonso pulls it out, but my heart's telling me it's definitely going to be Hamilton with the better car this season, winning or taking third in points.
I just wanted to note that I believe it was after the race, Fernando Alonso said that Aston Martin will be bringing upgrades in Canada, I think. So
But will it even matter? Like,
I mean, it's still sort of, I don't say it's a whole cut and dry deal. I'd say maybe, I mean, if these upgrades don't work out, then yeah, we could say Mercedes has it, but we should definitely try and wait and see till the upgrades come in Canada.
I don't want to completely write out Aston Martin. I just felt like
that was a conversation, like if we're just writing them off entirely.
Yeah, in the past, Mercedes has been able to overcome most of that size.
Well,
yeah.
Something else
a little intimidating.
Something else to note this, to kind of stayed out there is that, everyone saw the floorboards at Monaco. So, if you take it a time from 2 weeks ago, could that be the upgrade, that they're bringing in new floorboards? Could that be all the difference? Because we saw how different, Williams' floorboard was from Red Bull, and it was mind blowing just to see the difference alone. But on the topic of talking about kind of teams, well, we might see two teams merge together in the future. That is Alfa Romeo and Haas. Now, what I mean by that is everyone knows Audi is purchasing Sauber, Alfa Romeo Sauber, as their entry into F1. And it looks like the Alfa sponsorship is going to go to Haas for Alfa Romeo Haas. And I think that's just something cool to point out there. It helps Haas with the issue of sponsorship. That's something that, they've really been lacking in past years, and also gives them a closer connection to Red Bull. And we saw how good Alfa Romeo was when they had Leclerc, and they were the fifth best team with Raikkonen and Giovinazzi just a few years ago. So what are your expectations if you see, these two entities come together?
I don't see much change, honestly. I think they'll just slap the Alfa Romeo name on Haas, and it'll still run like a Haas, or it'll still run like an Alfa Romeo. Combining two, I hate to say it, but backmarker teams together isn't the solution to the problem. They need to step up R&D. Maybe combining their resources may do that, but it's like it's just going to be a makeover for the Haas team, just like it was kind of a makeover for Sauber when Alfa Romeo came in. It's just going to be a name change that will probably go away in a few years.
I mean, there's always the saying that two wrongs don't make a right. So, I mean, I think that could possibly be brought up into the situation, combining both these two teams, which honestly they don't really do too much. They've just been kind of struggling. So, I don't think combining them it'll necessarily get them further up the grid. I think they'll just still be stuck in the back.
And I kind of just I have to agree with you guys there. It's going to be cool to see. I have hopes. I think that this is going to provide Haas with the the best hopes they've had in a while, and it's going to be interesting to see the driver lineup if there's more influence for what drivers go up and join Haas.
I mean, going back to what we said earlier, it's in Formula One, it is so incredibly difficult to make your way up the standings, up the grid. You can gain a few spots from year to year, but you'll never. It's so difficult to truly make it to the top. It takes a very long time to develop a team, personnel, headquarters, everything that is able to compete against the top teams. I mean, even the top teams themselves, when they falter, they don't falter that bad. Mercedes, yeah, they fell off, but they're still up there competing for podiums. And like Red Bull, they have been up there for a long time. Sure, they fell off for a bit, but they were always competing for podiums. Recently I've noticed that there's defined places on the grid for each team. Teams can move up and down a little bit, but they'll always be more or less in the same area. And that's something that's something that has become more common in the last 15, 20 years. And I think it's mainly in part due to the cost of everything. Everything is getting extremely expensive. I mean, the other day I read an article that explains that if a new team wants to join Formula One, they have to pay upwards of $500 million to every team. That just it doesn't make sense. It explains why nobody wants to join. $500 million is nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, the FIA is cutting them off at the knees, basically.
But with that said, let's move on to a new track that we saw last week for the first time. A new track, but in the same area. Let's talk about IndyCar. So IndyCar had the Detroit Grand Prix over the weekend, with a lot of jokes to come along with it along the way. But the main story is Alex Palou dominance, got the pole, led the most laps, but the late charge by Will Power did not stop him from getting the win, with Palou finishing first, Power second, and Rosenquist third. But With that said, I'm not going to get into the troubles that McLaren had. So their star driver, the driver highest up in the point standings, Pato O'Ward, hit the wall early, which sent him out. And then, Rosenquist and Rossi tangled, which put Rossi in the wall. Rossi able to recover to still get a top 5 finish, but led to Rosenquist to capitalize and get on the podium. What are your guys' thoughts about the contact between those two drivers? Was it fair? Was it needed?
Fair can be debatable. Needed? No, not at all. Two teammates going at it right at the end, just overstepped, really. I think like Rossi, I think it was that went way too deep. It's just your teammates battling near the end of the race for a position that is not the win, and you're almost wrecking each other at one of the tightest street courses on the schedule.
Yeah.
I just don't see how that is something good. But I can understand the aggression at the same time. I mean, both of them haven't had the luckiest season or the best season, so
Yeah.
I can understand the desperation.
Do I think it was fair? Yes. Do I think they should have pushed that hard as teammates? No. Neither of them. I mean, it is a podium, which does matter, but you're not in the championship standings. You may be. I am not exactly looking at the championship standings right now, but I don't think either of them are in the top 5 in points. I think Rosenquist may be 10th in points, so I can't say neither of them are in the top 10, but it's just not a good season. They should write it off. They shouldn't be going for moves that could have ruined the race of both of them.
Write it off.
Um,
What do you?
I was also going to look at the points, and
Rossi's 6th in points. What do you mean to write the season off?
yeah, Paddle is 5th, Rossi is 6th, and Rosenquist is 10th. So I wouldn't say that's a write off at all, or if anything.
I don't think they need. I thought Rossi was further down in the standings than that. I'll be honest.
Rosenquist is 10th in the standings. I'll give her top 10 real quick for reference. So Alex Palou leads with 273 points. With second, Ericsson has 222. Third is Newgarden after his Indianapolis 500 win a couple of weeks ago. Scott Dixon, Mr. Consistent, 4th. O'Ward 5th. Rossi 6th. McLaughlin 7th. Power 8th. Herta quietly in 9th. Rosenquist 10th, and just outside, 3 points behind Rosenquist outside the top 10 is Grosjean, and Kirkwood is 2 points behind him. And I think the story, but with Grosjean is if Grosjean can just he's fast, but he just mistakes with Grosjean. If he can lessen the mistakes and errors, and if he didn't kind of have that risk it all attitude, instead of 11th in points, he would be battling for the championship right now. So that's just something to look out for.
Yeah. Again, I'd like to apologize for my mistake on Rossi. He's just been quiet. Apparently, I have not noticed him in any of the races I have watched.
Yeah.
I'm actually fairly surprised that he's up that high, and I'm happy for him. I guess maybe that contact was. I mean, Rossi needed that podium more than Rosenquist did, I'd say, because I think Rossi has a better shot at the title than Rosenquist does.
I agree.
So,
I mean, the thing is, Rossi's had a good season. He's just, as always, unlucky.
Yeah.
After looking at the points, I can definitely understand why that move was made, and I'd say it is completely fair. And I don't think the McLaren team should have any problem with it.
I mean, yeah, it's also just hard racing. These drivers
Uh-huh.
are wanting to get every position
Well,
possible.
I think you're just kind of getting your NASCAR into it now. I think
Okay,
that
but like, I mean, isn't that on the team to tell them, hey, that
well, it's
guy's
two to go for a podium. I don't think it's on the team. Like I'm like that's what I'm trying to say. Like, okay,
yeah. I'm saying that they're going to be racing with 2 to go. The only way to tell them to back down is if the team either tells them or they got some 300 IQ move. I'm just saying.
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I mean, you never know. But so the biggest news this week, I think, in any motorsport. Well, it's close with NASCAR between these three series, but Connor Daly gets the boot from Ed Carpenter Racing. Ryan Hunter-Reay, who hasn't raced a full-time season since 2021, and his last race was the Indy 500 last week. So it's not like he's been completely out of the car. But ooh, this move, some sour taste. If you look on social media with some drivers not agreeing with this move, TK saying this is a low blow. So
Yeah.
maybe the press release doesn't tell the whole story of what really happened, but what are your guys' takes? For reference, I'll just look at where this team is in points. Renus VK has 108 points in 15th. While Connor Daly only has 88 with 20. And Daly's, in the defense, Daly's stats don't really show. But again, what are your guys' takes?
I mean,
On
I'm gonna say here first that Connor Daly, he's had a lot of bad luck this
Yeah.
season, a lot of reliability issues. I don't blame any of it on Connor Daly. This is a huge blow to Ed Carpenter Racing, and I mean that team as a whole has not been close to how
Yeah.
good it could have been in years past. I think this is just plain stupid.
Yeah, and to build onto that, Renus Vika has always been the star driver for like a few years
Mhm.
now. He's always been the star driver of that team, and it's pretty obvious that he gets better equipment. But I mean, he is pretty good. I'll say that. I'm a Connor Daly fan and a Renus VK fan. Um, VK is better than Daly as a whole. However, Daly is an exceptional oval driver. He is, in my opinion, one of the best oval drivers on the grid in IndyCar. So the fact that he got fired right after an oval leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Because, like, I mean, at least leave him in for whatever ovals left. I think Gateway is the only one left. But like, I don't know. I think
Iowa
Daly.
doubleheader.
Oh wait, Iowa. Yeah, Iowa's kind of forgettable.
Yeah.
But I think I think Daly deserves the rest of the season. I don't think he should be immediately just let go after some bad luck. But Ryan Hunter-Reay is washed. And like I'm being brutally honest. He used to be good. Yes, he's washed. I'm sorry, but
I don't think wash.
I,
I just think the age has gotten
yeah,
to
the
him.
age. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Like he's old.
I,
He's
I
not
would
him.
not call one bad season washed. I mean, he is 42, and up until 2000 or 2021, in 2018 he finished fourth in the standings. In 2019 he finished eighth, and in 2020 he finished 10th. He was dropped after one bad season. I'd like to see what he does first. Connor Daly is in the bottom half of drivers. I don't think he should have been dropped the way he was, but if any driver is going to get dropped, I'd say he's kind of the one that gets the boot for it. I
Especially any
mean,
drivers on the grid, because I can name a few. If you want to
Yeah.
say any
Yeah.
drivers on the grid, there's a
I'm
man
just
from Canada called Delvin DiFrancesco.
Devlin
Exactly. I was
Ready
DeFrancesco.
just gonna
equipment,
Yeah,
say.
Worst
20th
driver on the
person in
grid
the standings.
in one of the best teams at that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Because
Uh,
Devlin, I've always stood by this. Devlin is an atrocious driver. I don't know anything about his personality. He might be nice. I don't know. All I know is that he has no pace. They call him 007. He has 0 wins, 0 poles, 7 DNFs. So I think that's more or less what explains his career.
yeah. But Connor Daly, I feel like he's a great guy, but Ed Carpenter Racing has to do something. I mean, they cannot just sit there and continue to finish
So they
in the
fire their
bottom.
best oval driver for like what?
The IndyCar series is not majority oval.
Sadly.
Maybe make him full time. Maybe make him oval. Share the ride with Ryan Hunter-Ray.
I think that's more.
That would have been
respectable.
more of a realistic thing. Put Connor Daly back in the car for like Iowa and stuff like that. But
Okay, how many races did Daly do in the 20 this season? Like, how many races has there been? 6?
Yeah.
6? Yeah.
If there's been 6, and I want to wait until Hunter Ray's in the car for 6 races, and I want to compare their stats. Hopefully, I
Mhm.
remember to do that because I think that will tell what actually is going on at that team.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
And
And
just looking at this. Oh, sorry, you go.
yeah, I wanted to note that out of all 6 races done, only 3 of them have been lead lap finishes. The rest of them have been at least 1 or more laps down. No DNFs, but there have definitely been a lot of mechanical problems. So I'm going to be sticking with Daly on this one.
Okay. I don't know how I feel about the move, but just looking at these points, another thing is just Meyer Shank Racing as a whole. You would think of powerhouses with Pagenaud, Castroneves, 2 champions, 2 Indy 500 winners, they would be better than they are, and it just, I just kind of want to bring that up for a moment. I did not think Pagenaud would be 25th in points behind. Hold on, another notable Marcus Armstrong, who is 17th in points and I haven't run on a full schedule, ahead of Rahal, Malukas, Daly, both Meyer Shank drivers, both his all 3 Rahal cars, or all two Rahal cars.
I think the
Lundgaard
solution for Meyer Shank Racing is clear. Don't re-sign Elio for next season unless you're just doing
Elio's
an
ahead of
oval.
Pagenaud.
Unless you're doing, yes, Elio's ahead of Pagenaud, but I'm saying don't keep Pagenaud and focus on his car. You're going to have more of a long-term plan with Pagenaud. I know he's not exactly the youngest driver on the grid, but I mean, you have more time with Pagenaud than you do Castroneves. And I think it's time for people to let Castroneves go.
Yeah, look, I love Castroneves, but he's what, 47 now?
Yeah,
48?
Castroneves is amazing, but it's just not. He's just not top talent in IndyCar anymore. I mean,
yeah, just last season, Pagenaud, I believe, beat Castroneves by like 40, 50 points, and Pagenaud had a podium last season. He had a lot of top 10s. Castroneves only scored like 3 top 10s that season. I've said this for a while now, but the Indy 500 win carried that team. The momentum carried them. The money carried them. The double points from
and
that race
Rolex.
carried them.
And the Rolex that season.
It's just that like once all of that momentum and money and everything ran out, the true pace of the team showed. And I mean, Pagenaud is like 40, so I don't know about long term, but if I'm Meyer Shank, I'm looking for a young driver to put in Castroneves' car, and I'm keeping Pagenaud for 2-3 more years, maybe more, depending on his performance. But like, I'm looking for a young driver. I'm looking for someone talented, like I don't know, Kyle Kirkwood, with David Malukas, Rinus VK, anyone that's like good like that, or maybe even some Indy Lights driver. But I don't know. That one's a stretch. But I do believe that they need some young talent on that team.
I'm just saying, Connor Daly's on the market now.
Yeah. I don't think that's the move. I don't know. I don't think
that'd be move of all time.
If people think that Connor Daly should have kept his ride at Ed Carpenter, then I definitely think that they should think Meyer Shank Racing should pick up Connor Daly, considering Connor Daly was higher in points than both of their drivers this season.
Yeah.
And again, no hate to Elio Castroneves or Simon Pagenaud. I'm a fan of Elio Castroneves and what he did. Him winning both the Rolex 24 and the Indy 500 in the same year, I thought was amazing. So I don't hate
Yeah.
him. I just think everybody has a time.
Hmm. I just think like this season, sure, Elio's outperforming Simon, but I don't know. I feel like Simon is just an overall slightly better driver. At least basing it off of last season, but I don't know. We'll see.
But moving on. So over the off season for IndyCar and NASCAR, although NASCAR doesn't go there anymore. Road America got a repave, and well, Scott McLaughlin flew feet in the air. And for other reference, he was going 10 seconds faster than last year, and about 18 miles an hour faster. So, higher speeds at Road America with the new pavement. It's gonna be very quick, and it's kind of striking me in the nerves a little bit with how quick this track has become. Road America is known for the old bumpy surface in the past years, and it's now just wow.
The
I'm
IndyCar
looking at it
version of
now.
DRS.
Yeah, so
pave half the track, and
just going back, do you think this was the right move to repave the whole track? And how do you think they should fix this issue with the runoff? Just repave it all, just because there's not that much room that just had gravel. So I don't know what they're gonna do because where he did jump.
As long as they don't use sausage curbs, I think pretty much anything works. We've seen multiple drivers get injured because of sausage curbs. I think girl in the W series broke her back like 1 or 2 years
Coda.
ago. Yeah, Coda. We've seen a lot of incidents with sausage curbs. Someone in a GT car broke their back at Monza last year.
Sausage
So
curbs should be outlawed in
yeah,
motorsport.
I agree.
Agreed.
But for some reason, more and more tracks are putting them in. And sure, people make fun of it because the cars go into the air, like the front end lifts off the ground, like Chris Wright at the Indy Road Course.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
for a funny compilation and a huge hospital bill.
Yep.
Exactly.
it
not
ain't
safe.
worth it.
I think it's fine for heavy okay. I think for stock cars like GT cars, heavy cars, I think it's fine. But like heavy built cars, but you can have these light these light machines that could go that are have spoilers to keep them on the ground and have maneuvers that stop them from flying in the air too long. If they do pick up off the ground, do have sausage curbs to launch these cars. So it's something's got to happen to put an end to it. I don't know what. In Road America, it wasn't really just a sausage curb; it just dips in the ground, really. Kind of like a gutter. It was weird. It was kind of like a gutter almost, but something's got to change. I don't know what, but I do agree with you guys on that. But we kind of looked at it before, but let's kind of look back in the championship battle. So, top five, under 100 points. Alex Pillow leads 273 points, followed by his Chip Ganassi teammate with Marcus Ericsson in second
Top
with
7 is
222.
actually within 100 points.
No.
Yeah. All the way back to Scott McLaughlin in 7th, who's 98 points back.
Sorry. Well, top 7, but let's focus on top 5. Top 5, under 95 points. Joseph Newgarden, 203 for Team Penske. And you have Dixon and Ward, 194, 191. So 5 different nations, 4 different teams, or 3 different teams. Who do you guys got? We're just past halfway. I know Polo's the favorite, but who are you guys going for, right?
I think it's obvious. I think it's pretty obvious who it is. I mean, this guy has finished top 5 every race except one, and that is Alex Palou. He has just been the master of consistency this year. But someone who is supposed to be having a better season, but luck is not going his way, is Pato O'Ward. I mean, he's
Mhm.
gotten second 3 different times this season. At the Indy 500, he was in position to get another top 3, and then at Detroit, possibly another top 3, maybe even just top 5. Long Beach, he had the incident with Dixon, so that kind of messed him up. But he could have been top 5 every single race other than Long Beach, and that would have probably put him around second in points, just behind Palou. So I think if Pato O'Ward can get the bad luck fixed, he's a decent title pick, but I still have to go with Palou.
Pato has had his bout with bad luck this season. Palou has yet to have had it. I think
Mhm.
Pato has a good run at the championship left in him. That could be a little biased. I do like Award, and I
Mhm.
think Palou's great as well. But
Uh,
I just don't know. I think he can finish out a season, but
I mean, for me, I would say the only ones I'd say have any shot to catch Palou would be either Marcus Ericsson or Joseph Newgarden. I think Newgarden, he can be a bit more. I think he can get more consistency, especially after this Indy 500 win. I think that would give him a lot of confidence to uh, keep racking good finishes. Ericsson, I think he can hold his own on the road courses, but yeah, unless Palou just completely crashes off just every race from now, he's just going to keep going. I mean, it's almost like he's an unstoppable force, and there isn't any immovable objects nearby.
it is still fairly early this in the year, though, isn't it? I mean,
I mean, what we're like around
Race
halfway
7?
point of the
Yeah,
season.
we're like race
around.
7, I think.
Yeah,
Race 7 of 17, maybe.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean,
I mean,
that
it's
sounds
it's
about
around
right.
half. So
yeah, it's about a half almost. But I'd say if by I think Toronto, if Palou is still consistently being Alex Palou, then I think the title's pretty much done, barring anything
Yeah.
major.
I mean, Palou
I
is the real deal. So
I agree.
it's going to
Mhm.
be hard to stop him.
I gotta agree with you guys. I think Palou's the best bet, but I'm gonna go with the guy who always comes around at the end somehow. They're
Huh?
somehow in the championship conversation at the end. We saw, well, that's how we picked up the 6th title. I'm gonna go Scott Dixon. So
Hmm.
never a
I would
doubt with
love
Scott
that.
Dixon. But with that said,
Neither would I
let's move
suppose.
on to our next topic. Finally, let's get to NASCAR at the Gateway Motorplex, or Worldwide Technology Raceway, which is ironic, but we'll get into that later. Started off with
Worldwide
a
poverty.
5-lap sprint race. NASCAR's take of what F1 likes to do before Tyler Reddick decided to take a trip into the outside barrier, a trip that a lot of drivers will be taking this race. The rain delay was a 2-hour delay, which led us to a late 5 o'clock start, which I personally was happy about because maybe we'll see some racing under the lights, which, on the final restart, we did soon see. It also added troubles for Brad Keselowski, who, has been very well this season, but engine issues kind of plagued him towards the back. And I just kind of wanted to highlight what happened to his day after he's been having such a good season. But the main issue all day was brake caliber issues, where we saw multiple drivers get out due to this issue. And Hocevar, who was, I think, the guy we really should look at, who was having his issue, running in 16th place in his first ever NASCAR start, compared to Corey LaJoy, uh, running 32nd. So my question to you guys is, do you think guys should go in the Xfinity Series right after, because these trucks are so used to Cup, are so similar to the Cup cars rather? Is it necessary? We've seen Ben Rhodes do it. We've seen Dane Smith do it. Todd Gilliland. Now Carson Hocevar. What do you guys think?
I think going from trucks to cup isn't the smartest thing. However, the cup cars are very similar to the Xfinity cars, and I think trucks is sort of just it's straying away from being a development series. I mean, it didn't start out as a development series, to be fair. Back in the 90s and 2000s and even part of the 2010s, it wasn't a stepping stone if you wanted to get to Cup. You would go ARCA and then Xfinity. But with the downfall of ARCA, trucks turned into that third one. And now obviously it's starting to fade away too. It's just the problem is ARCA isn't there to pick up the scraps. Actually, ARCA is the scraps. So I don't know. I think it's very strange right now. On the path to Cup is kind of cloudy. You need to be extremely good to have one set in stone. Something like Ty Gibbs, for example, he had a pretty simple one, ARCA, Xfinity, and Cup. That's what I would do in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. It's very complicated right now.
I think Hocevar should get a ride with JRM next season, or a ride at some Chevy development team. I definitely think
he's already at JRM.
I agree.
Technically. They built the car. They call it a junior, although it's Aspire. Whenever you interview someone, they call it a junior motorsports car. Even Dale Jr. on his podcast says, "Oh, Carson Hocevar ran a car for us this week." So it's just like a Hendrick Motorsports car. Well, it's basically his team that gets entered every week, just under a different number. So I do see, without a doubt, he's going to go there. I found his run very impressive. I was not expecting him to get anywhere in, maybe 20th at the most, but nowhere near where he was. And so you got to give him credit where credit's due. I mean, and I thought Corey LaJoie was going to be running up front the whole day. I did pick him as my win pick, which that didn't go so well, to say the least. But very impressed by what he was able to do. But what are your guys' takes on Corey LaJoie? I would say the story of the week, but also the biggest letdown for most fans watching of the week.
I wanted to say that, well, the 9 car, it didn't really run well last year either. Hendrick as a whole, I don't think they really got Gateway down to it. They
half of them did, half of them didn't.
Yeah, like towards the end, like I think it was like Bowman and Larson, I think started to figure it out towards the end.
Yeah.
But,
it was Byron and Larson.
Yeah, I mean, then I don't think this one race will really determine it. I mean, it's like the Final Four. I mean, one race doesn't determine everything. I mean, it's a series of a few races. Like, I'd say if Corey LaJoie was in the car for like 6 races and he wasn't performing great, then yeah, that would tell a lot more than just one race that he didn't do great at.
I don't believe Josh Berry performed well in his first race in the 9 either.
Yeah, Berry had a bad start, but then he picked it up. That's why I cut LaJoie some slack. However, the difference between LaJoie and Berry is
that LaJoie experience.
Yeah, LaJoie has experience in the next 2 years. Berry had none when he got in the car. So it's sort of like a balance they have to make. I don't think LaJoie is all that. I've always been someone that says that LaJoie is overrated, but that doesn't mean he's bad. Just because someone is overrated doesn't mean they're bad. I just think he's not all that, and I think Hocevar are really impressed. However, the 7 car and the whole Spire team this season has been underrated.
Yeah,
Ty Dillon makes the team look worse than it is, but LaJoie the whole season long he's just been consistently top 20 most races.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he was top 20 in points, or I don't know. But,
I think he still is.
Yeah. So the 7 car is not that bad. Hocevar impressed, yes. Even if it's a good car, you don't expect someone like him to just get in and make it a top 15 car before his issues. But I don't know, man. I think that 7 car is underrated. I think the whole team is underrated, and I think that LaJoie is overrated.
I was going to mention that this shows that the 7 car definitely has pace. It's not Corey LaJoy. I mean, I still think Corey LaJoy and Carson Hocevar probably outdrove its potential, but it's not. It is a top 25 car this year, not a bottom 7 car. It's
Yeah,
not
that's true.
gonna. It's not the type of car where if it didn't have a charter, it'd be at risk of DNQing anymore. I think they've definitely done a lot of work on it. I expect them to work their way back up, maybe get another little rain win like they have before.
No, I mean, you never know. I was at their rain win, so it was pretty cool to see an underdog win. Come with that, come with that.
It should have been Kurt Busch's win. Just saying, my favorite driver.
I shouldn't have, because Kurt Busch. If we
Kurt Busch
really
better.
want to get technical, it should have been Landon Castle's win. Because in my opinion, if Justin Haley, if you do, I'm trying to think here. Sorry, Landon Castle pit. Just want to point that out. Justin Haley was one of 2 cars to stay out, and sorry, Landon Castle would have won. So not Landon Castle, Quinn House. One of
Okay,
the 2.
how did we go from Gateway to 2018 Daytona?
Sorry,
Or 2019
Fire
Daytona?
Motorsports.
I'm Spire Motorsports. I'm just defending
Huh.
my driver. But with that said, talk about trying to defend. Well, between Dylan and Cindric, I don't know who to defend in this case. Their SMT data, Denny Hamlin said it's Cindric to blame, but I think it's just a racing incident as a whole.
Yeah.
I really feel bad for Stenhouse because he was having a very good run up to that point. But what do you guys think between the incident we saw between Austin Cindric and Austin Dillon?
I think it's racing incident. It's just hard racing. Cindric didn't do it on purpose. The SMT data shows a little bit of input, but if you look at they notice how they never showed Dylan's SMT data, but Dylan turned up, he wasn't clear. Cindric turned down, he wasn't clear. They both made a mistake. They both mainly Dylan suffered the consequences. I just think it's a racing incident. There's not much to look at there.
I never really understood the beef, to be honest with you.
I don't think anyone truly understood the beef. I heard under caution, by just hearing from drivers that they were kind of just bumping each other, just banging each other.
I feel like it was probably intentional, but the difference between Chase Briscoe's and Chase Elliott's, Austin Cindric and Chase Elliott's is Austin Cindric did it not at a speedway. The speeds that you were reaching when he did that weren't the same speeds, and it wasn't the same danger that Chase Elliott put Denny Hamlin in with these cars.
I see.
So
where
I'm
you're
glad
going.
NASCAR decided to go with no penalty in this case.
I'm glad. I'm glad too, because I didn't feel like it was penalty worthy. Now the Hendrick fans think otherwise, but the Hendrick fans kind of just think of what Hendrick fans think. But let's start talking about hard hits. Something I want to touch on in a second before we get to before we get to it. We haven't talked about the race winner. That was Kyle Busch in dominating fashion, able to get his 3rd win of the season when people were looking at, okay, Fontana didn't dominate, came in the picture late, able to win there. Vega's a plate track, but the 8 team really has not been on their game. But, if we look at the playoff picture, this was able to leap the 8 team into the playoff standings. So William Byron is first in the playoff standings, followed by Blaney, Busch, Larson, Truex, Chastain, Hamlin, Bell, Reddick, Logano, and Stenhouse. Those are all your winners. Now, the cut line is an interesting one. Daniel Suarez is 6 above the cut line, launching his way in over Alex Bowman, who, just to let you guys remember, did miss 3 races. It is still in the fight, which is just amazing. 15 points back is Ty Gibbs, 33 points back is Cindric, and Michael McDowell sitting there in 20th, only 35 points back. Above the cut line, Bubba Wallace is 27, 86 is Buescher, 96 is Keselowski. Then if we even get more into it, 157, 166 are both Harvick and Chastain. Those guys are practically locked in on points, but you really can't say practically locked in on points because, well, last season only one driver was, and that one driver was only locked in on those points due to Kurt Busch getting injured. So for the RFK guys, I think they got to win. It's good to see. It's weird to say, but it's good to see less parity in winners because I like seeing not just one car kind of be the favorite and just have a multitude of different winners. Like last season, Chase Elliott had 4 wins, and just a bunch of other drivers had 2 or 1 wins the whole season. But this season, we're actually starting to see some winners take shape, such as Larson, Busch, and Byron. But with that said, looking at this playoff picture, who do you guys think gets? Name one driver who gets an unexpected win, and then the driver who gets in on, kind of leaps in on points and leaps out on points. If you're trying to get what I'm saying. One driver that's in the picture they see going out, and one driver you see that gets a win that leaps his way in.
Ty Gibbs goes in, and I think Daniel Suarez falls out.
Okay. And do you think Gibbs is going to get a win to get in or no?
I can see him very easily winning. I mean, he runs well at all different types of tracks. I think that he can prevail at any type of track, especially tracks like Pocono or something like that. I feel like a bigger track would suit him well.
I'm gonna have to agree with you. Well, wait. Now you're gonna call me crazy. Okay. Just let me explain. So I know a man called Sebastian Klein is gonna love what I'm about to say. Hector giving me the little eye roll. But I think, you always get that random Eric Almirola in the middle of nowhere. And Eric Almirola is quiet but deadly.
That is true.
But when you least expect it, he's going to win. So I think Eric Almirola gets a win, gets himself in, and you're going to see Twitter go crazy because undeserving drivers in the playoffs, that happens every year. And sadly, I don't want to say this, but I gotta go Suarez. I think Suarez isn't just what he was last year, and it's a big letdown. And at least we bring this up on some podcasts occasionally, but he's there because of the sponsorship. I really don't think he should be in that good of a ride as he is now.
I think a surprise winner could be someone like Allmendinger or McDowell.
Okay.
And not even. I mean, maybe at a road course like Sonoma this weekend, but honestly, I can see just them winning on a play track, or like off of a pit strategy at the end of a normal race, and someone that could get taken out of the playoffs could be Cindric. Honestly, I can see
Cindric's already outside of the.
No, I know, but I can see him being out of the playoffs while his teammates are lighting the world on fire.
Yeah.
And that would not look great on him. And I know Cindric is good.
Yeah.
I used to not like him. I like him because of how he has been recently. But, you know what? someone who could fall out of the playoffs if there's a lot of winners and stuff could be Joey Logano, unless he has a win. I don't know,
He
but
won Atlanta.
He has a win.
yeah.
Good. Look behind David real quick. Look at the photo.
But I mean, if he hadn't won that, he's like 15th in points, something like that. He's not doing great.
He is top 10.
Oh, he moved up.
No, he's 12th.
Oh, okay.
Fun
okay.
fact: he's behind Brad Keselowski in points.
He used to be behind
Jesus.
Stenhouse in points up until recently. So
Me and
I mean,
Hector are both bad at points today.
yeah, my bad. I might have been looking at my sim points anyway.
Yeah.
But talking about
Oh.
which drivers are going to get in and get out. Well, Gregson, hard hit, brake caliber broke for him. And with that hard hit, he is going to step out this week. And Grant Enfinger, who made an attempt to run a Cup Series race in 2012, his only attempt, and was set to run the full season the season after, and which then got fired in 2012 and never got his Cup Series opportunity ever again, will get it. And this time it is guaranteed. Grant Enfinger will make his Cup Series debut at Sonoma in the 42 Legacy Motor Club. And I wouldn't even be surprised if somehow Enfinger runs better than Gregson, because Gregson has been a huge letdown.
I would not go that far. I think he will not outrun Gregson. Gregson's a rookie in horrible equipment. Let's be honest. The Legacy Motor Club cars are not even what Petty GMS was last year. Like Eric Jones was able to sneak out a win in it last year. This year, you're lucky if Eric Jones is in the top 20.
I think also bring this into point. This be first time Enfinger's in a next gen, so
yeah.
I mean that's another struggle to add on to the struggle bus, which I don't think Enfinger's gonna be able to do anything in that car anyway. So
I watch him have a host of our type run 5-6
yeah,
days.
we'll watch him win the race. I don't
surprised
know. This is 2023. Anything happens these days.
He raced there last year. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. I wish he kind of ran the ARCA race or the Xfinity race to get more practice at the track. 'Cause he's only been there once, and that was in the Truck Series last season for the Truck Series one-off they had there, which I wish they brought it back, but I understand
I'm
why
surprised
they
didn't. I remember it being a pretty solid race.
It was. The reason they removed it was they did not want the Truck Series teams going out there for one race and then just coming back. The interesting thing they did for the Truck Series teams that if you couldn't make it, you would still have a waiver for the next week, because NASCAR then realized that week how hard it was for teams to afford to go out there for one race, and that's why now Xfinity Series kind of just stays out there and helps them save a little bit of money. But with that said, Legacy Motor Club is really leaving a legacy after Gateway, with Eric Jones getting a penalty, a similar penalty to the Hendrick Greenhouse penalty we saw, but they are not going to try to get the points back. So Jones sits if I'm not mistaken, he sits 30th in points behind Austin Dillon, but ahead of Chase Briscoe. And fun fact, which all three of those drivers who got heavily penalized over 100-point penalties each are also ahead of Noah Gragson and Ty Dillon. But not to bash on those two any longer. After those two, after Jones's penalty, it's interesting to see, NASCAR's really drawn a line for once, and I respect the line they're drawing. But let's kind of end off NASCAR by looking at the top five in points. It is 2 Fords, 2 Chevrolets, 1 Toyota, and it is 5 different teams. Ryan Blaney leads the points, 13 points over William Byron. And then it's very close, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. 22 points back is Harvick, 1 point behind Harvick, 23 back is Martin Truex Jr., the only Toyota in the top 5. And Ross Chastain, who was your points leader 2 races ago, at Darlington 3 weeks ago, 2 races ago, is 29 back. So Now, Byron does have the most top fives out of this group and the wins. But if you're looking at this top five right now, who's your championship for? So let's kind of make this a little bit interesting. You have to, out of this top five, you have to pick 3 of them to be in your championship for, and then pick a wild card that's not in the top 5. Does that make sense? You kind of see what I'm trying to explain here? So pick 3 from that
Yeah.
top 5 and then pick a wild card. So Hector, you want to go first?
Sure. You know what? I'm gonna go a little bold. So I'm gonna say Truex, Harvick, Larson. That's my one out of the top 5, which is surprising. But another one from the top 5. Man,
Yeah, Byron, Chastain, and Blaney.
I don't know. Like I want to trust Blaney, but my gut just doesn't tell me to. And I can't trust Chastain. He's too inconsistent.
Well, you kind of narrowed that down for you, didn't you?
Yeah, and
The
know
guy
what?
who
Yeah,
has 3
fine.
wins.
Byron.
Okay,
Um,
so
Yeah, I don't know. My
uh,
ideal Final Four would not have been Byron. It would have been Bell. But
My top 4.
there's 3 from the top 5, one
Yeah,
wild card out of it.
My top 4 is actually going to be all of the drivers that Hector left on the table. There, Blaney, Byron, and Chastain, as well as Chase Elliott. I mean,
Oh my
I am sorry
God,
for being
bro.
predictable, but
It's
Chase
not
Elliott,
predictable. It's just not. He's not going to be there.
Chase
way,
Elliott
man.
has made the top 4 for the last 5 years? What is it? Is he on a 5-year streak now? I believe.
Like 4 at least.
Yeah, 4 at least.
2022, 2021,
I
2020.
think he will obviously get his one-off win somewhere, and then he's on even playing field with everybody else again. And Chase Elliott on even playing field has shown that he can make it to the Final Four and even win a championship. Now, do I think this is a Kyle Busch type season? Absolutely not. But I know he's at least going to be there. He's going to be in the conversation, and we're going to hear people on Twitter complain about it. And
Yeah.
Well, I'll go next. This is interesting. Sorry, Dave, you gotta go. I was looking at the standings. But
yeah, I am too.
I'm gonna go. You know, in his final season, we've seen other drivers do it, but I'm gonna go Kevin Harvick, Truex, and Chastain's Mr. Excitement, but I'm not sure if he can make it all the way there. So I'm gonna go Ryan Blaney. So one Toyota, 2 Fords.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
well, I'm gonna go Brad Keselowski. I think just how consistent he's been running lately. I think he can get there if he can just. And Keselowski's been one of the drivers who's been able to stay out of trouble. By trouble, I mean wrecks. So if it isn't his own doing that's taken him out, I feel like Keselowski can get there. And at the end of last season, well, top 10, Phoenix, Martinsville, Vegas. Oh, sorry, Bristol, RFK won that. Darlington, driver's track, Brad Keselowski, the driver. Road course, Brad Keselowski, another top 10 there last season. RFK really showed out during the playoffs, and they were even in it. So I think in Kansas, sorry, Keselowski got yet another top 5 there. So, and if I'm wrong, this is all off of memory, so I'm not probably wrong. But that's my 4. So David, you're next.
My final for so I'm gonna start off with being Ryan Blaney. He has the best average finish right now with an 11.3. I'd say this year I feel like you can actually trust him. You can actually keep him in. I'm gonna say William Byron next because I think he could do it good at tracks like Homestead just to get into the Final Four. Let's see here. Up next, I'm gonna say Martin Truex Jr. and I just have a feeling that I feel that he could do good at Homestead and Martinsville to lock himself into the Final Four. Let's see. That's three of them. I think fourth one I got to go outside the top four. I'm gonna say probably. Yeah, that's a bit of a tough one, but I'm gonna say for my wild card, I'm gonna say Kyle Busch because I feel like he's really bringing RCR to its A game, and I think that Kyle Busch he could possibly win a race to get in. I think he could possibly win himself in there at possibly Homestead. I think it's possible. I mean, he's kind of come out with 3 wins already, and we're not even halfway through the season. So yeah, my final four will be Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Truex, and Kyle Busch.
I can't believe that I completely forgot Kyle Busch was
Well,
one of the options.
I know he has 3 wins, but he's just so inconsistent. I can't trust it. But with that said, let's go to a special segment, an interview for the first time.
Down the backstretch into turns 3 and 4. He'll be looking at the checkered flag. This time by William Sawalich, picking up career win number 2.
Hey guys, welcome to the Hitting the Curbs podcast. And this time around, we got an interview with William Sawalich. But Hector, you want to take us to our first question?
William, the first question for you today is a pretty simple one, and it's what began your interest in stock car racing?
I had a friend when I lived in Minnesota, and he was really interested in NASCAR. So I also wanted to be interested in NASCAR because I had a love for cars and pretty much anything with 4 wheels. So I got into watching NASCAR, and I wanted to learn how I could do that myself. So I got into quarter midget racing, and here I am now.
What was like the change from late models to ARCA stock cars, and do you prepare any differently?
Yeah, so I was used to running super late models, and then the transition to ARCA was a bit different, but everything's pretty much similar. The tire compound's a little different just to get used to, and just how heavy the ARCA car actually is. But ARCA car is a little bit less horsepower, so you can really get the throttle. And same with the Super, but you also have to be easier with it. So they're pretty much similar, but they're both a blast to drive.
You're in a car that's leading the ARCA East points and, has back-to-back championships in ARCA East. So do you feel any pressure put upon you under those conditions?
No, I think we got a good lead right now in the points to where I can be, comfortable in a race and maybe even get a second or third place. But my goal is to always win every race I'm in, and I definitely have that opportunity with Joe Gibbs Racing, and I'm very grateful for it.
And I got another question for you. So, in your first Truck Series start, you got a top 10. What was your initial reaction after getting that result?
Yeah, no, I was really pleased with that. I think we could have had a little better if I didn't have the contact with 42 and maybe some longer green flag runs because we had a really good Tricon truck there. So I was really happy with that. I'm also really happy to do my next one's Mid-Ohio and then a bunch of other short tracks after that. And short tracks are really fun to me, and I can't wait.
And in that race, for your first truck race, what was it like racing on an oval in the rain? That must have kind of threw you for a loop before the race even begun.
Yeah, that was really different. I think the Tricon trucks were one of the best teams with the rain tires on, so that was definitely an advantage for me, just to kind of get going and get a little head start and gain some track position. I think either way, we had a really good truck, and just to learn everything that those guys have done over the years and all their experience combined, it really helped me in my career.
And did you have to drive the track any differently, take a different line? How'd you adapt?
It was just a little bit looser, just pretty much total grip loss. There's not as much tread as a slick tire. And it was just really loose on exit, so I had to be really easy with the throttle. And compared to everybody else, I was really hooked up, so I could get the throttle faster and make some passes on exit.
The most recent race was at Portland, and somehow, in some way, you came across the line. Half your front end was gone, no hood. How'd you do it?
I think just not giving up and just keep trying. You know, we were lucky with the two that spun out in the last corner just to get fourth. We were running sixth at the time, but I think we had top five times going on there in the long run, especially. So I was really impressed with how good the car was, even with no nose and lacking a lot of front downforce. So I was lacking just turning all the high speed corners, but I could get everybody in the low speed corners. So that was kind of my advantage. And I remember every time on the straightaway, every time I pull out to try and pass somebody, it'd just be a big parachute on the front of my car. I couldn't do anything.
And from that race, you know, what can you take from that race? You know, racing with the Xfinity guys who came over, and put that towards Sonoma later today.
Yeah, I think. I mean, there was an opportunity to race with them, but again, I also ran into an Xfinity guy, so that's kind of what ended my day, even though I had a really fast car. So I think today I'm just going to take it a little easier on the first few laps and take it as a big learning experience and just try and learn as much as I can from these guys.
I know that Portland was a big thing, and ARCA has been the main focus this year. However, you did one truck start at the beginning of the year, and then now you're turning over to do 4 truck starts in a month and a half. How do you balance that with the ARCA starts and like the planning for all of those races bunched together?
Yeah, I think I just take the truck as a different race car, but also the same kind of concept. You know, just get out there, drive it, and do my best, and really just learn everything. These races are all about learning for me now, and just as I keep growing, even I mean, I don't think learning ever stops. So just continue to do that, and I'll be at my best.
The first one is that who's your favorite driver growing up and why?
My favorite driver growing up was Jeff Gordon because I got to meet him a few times. Really nice guy, really cool driver to root for. And I'm also good friends with Richard Petty. He's a good family friend. So even though I didn't never got the chance to watch him race, he's a really cool idol.
Series has always been sort of a dream for you to race in.
The NASCAR Cup Series for sure. That's been my goal since day one. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting there someday.
Yeah. Kind of like some goals you have, like short-term and long-term goals you have for your career.
Yeah, so I think for this year, the ARCA East Championship was definitely in play. And then long term, just get some Xfinity wins under the belt once we get there, and then some championships, and pretty much win every race I can.
This week, you're going to have a teammate in Sammy Smith in the 81. This is going to be the first time you're going to have a teammate with you in the ARCA Menards Series this season. So, has Sammy helped you in any ways to prepare for Sonoma? And
Yeah,
how will that teammate dynamic work?
Yeah, no, we've talked a little bit. I think all the learning is going to be on the track, and just maybe if I get the chance to be behind him, he's really good in the ARCA cars and especially on road courses. So, and he's been in Xfinity for a while now, and he's been learning from those guys. So he's been in lots of different environments, and he's definitely a good one to learn from.
Right after this, you have practice and qualifying for the ARCA Menards Series. So, in ARCA versus trucks, you have non-competitive pit stops. So, how was that transition in going into trucks, having live pit stops? How'd you get used to it? How'd you adapt to it?
Yeah, it's different. It's very stressful. Martinsville, I was kind of lucky to get maybe one live pit stop, but it was in the rain, so it didn't matter too much. It was kind of controlled. But I've been practicing. I've been going to the pit school practice and just practicing with the guys, just entering and leaving the box. There's all different types of scenarios of what can happen versus an ARCA race where you just pull in and wait for 5 minutes. So it's definitely a bigger part of the game than I thought of.
Another one that we have, which is your favorite nickname that you've ever had?
I think my favorite nickname is the one I still have, which is Rooster. It used to be the Raging Rooster when I was little in quarter midgets, but now it's just Rooster. I think it's pretty cool, and it's it got its name because I used to raise chickens, and we just kind of tried to come up with a name, and it's Rooster now.
What's your favorite type of track to go to? I know all short tracks, but that one track that comes across the board on the schedule and you just pin it. Which one is that? Which one you pin?
I'm excited for Iowa for sure. I think that's just going to be a different challenge for me. I've never been to something like that. I guess Dover is the closest thing I've been to. And it's also kind of a short track as well as a bigger track for me. And then I think Milwaukee will be pretty cool. I ran in there in a super before and did really well there. So I'm excited to see how the ARCA car handles there.
Do you have to kind of change your mindset any differently from hopping in one car to another? Because once you've been in one car so long, you kind of just stay and drive like you're in that car.
Yeah, for sure. It takes a little bit to go from one to another. I know at North Wilkesboro, I was going from late model stock to super. So that was a little bit different. I had to just basically change my throttle inputs and my brake inputs. So just the difference in that, it's not too bad, but it's easy to get used to.
The Cup Series is at Sonoma this week. Who's the guy you think's going to win Sonoma?
I'm going to go with Christopher Bell because he's good at road courses and good all-around racer.
Well, we ended off with an interesting pick from William Sawalich, and that is Christopher Bell, the road course. I guess you can call him a road course ringer. He's won 2 road courses in his career. He won for his first ever win at Daytona Road Course. One last year, so one per year. You never know. But our next pick is going to move on to Jason. Yeah, we'll give you go.
My pick for this weekend is it's a bit of a bolder pick. Because I mean, this guy, he's been doing good. The team has been doing well. Like his team has been doing well, with 2 consecutive top 10s, which this team doesn't usually get. Spread out across 2 cars, of course, not the same car. But I'm gonna say Michael McDowell is my pick for Sonoma. I think that front row has just a little bit of momentum. I should have taken Ty Gibbs.
I don't know what names you're naming right now, but I don't think any of us were thinking about, I'm going to take Ty Gibbs. But, you do you.
I should have taken Ty Gibbs instead of Michael McDowell.
You can still take Ty Gibbs. We haven't moved on yet.
Oh, yeah. Cut that out. All right.
No, it's going to stay in. Just take Ty Gibbs.
Crap. Michael McDowell isn't. I probably should not have picked him, so I'm going to take another road course ringer, one that's more probable. I'm going to take Ty Gibbs to get his first Cup Series win this weekend at Sonoma.
Solid. And then with that said, looking at last week, it is going to be me, then David, and then I was looking, and I do want to put this out. Ryan Miniker picked Denny Hamlin and will be our first ever guest win. So the guest segment is finally on the board with 1 point.
Darn.
So thank you, Ryan, from last week. Hopefully, Jason can follow up. But since I picked Corey LaJoie and he did very well last week, I have the next pick. And I'm stuck between one team. They're both doing really well this week. I did mention him briefly, but I'm gonna go Chris Buescher. He finished runner-up here last year, and he has showed promise at road courses as of late, and is having one of the best seasons of his career in the Cup Series. I think it's a no-brainer. He finished 12th last week. Chris Buescher is going to be my pick, your biggest mover from Gateway. And then next was Hector. So, David, you're going to have to sit in last.
For me, I don't know. I was thinking of someone like Reddick or Kyle Busch. Even Ty Gibbs, honestly, kind of popped into my mind. But I don't know. I think none of them are going to get it. I think this weekend it will come down to Martin Truex Jr. because I mean he won Sonoma in the past a few times, and he's always been top 5 at Sonoma whenever he has a good car under him. So I think this year he's making a rebound from last year, and I think he's at not the top of his game because that was 2017, but
Mhm.
he's getting pretty far up there in terms of pace. So I think he's going to pull it off again this weekend.
JGR is obviously the favorites.
We
for
could
this
have a
weekend,
JGR
apparently.
sweep here if, I feel like I missed out now on the Toyota party. But if David picks Hamlin, then we're going to have a JGR sweep. So
Yeah,
David, your turn.
yeah. I'm not really trusting Hamlin, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm just
Second place, you never know.
But
I never won there though, so that's I mean,
Denny was the person involved in that legendary finish with Tony.
yeah. But the one who I am picking does have a win here at Sonoma, and it is Kyle Larson.
no brainers. Only
Yeah,
started
man.
on pole since 2016. The only guy to start on pole.
Yeah, he is him, man.
He is. Yeah, I gotta agree with you. So this just wow.
It'll be interesting watching Kyle Larson's strategy change now that there's no cautions at the end of the stage, because he used to stay out for stage points and it cost him the win several times, even though he does have one win there. I know of several times where he would just stay out, win the stages, and then he'd pit at the end of both stages and that'd give up the win towards the end of the race. So it'll be interesting to see how Kyle Larson approaches strategy this weekend.
It will be. But with that said, thank you for tuning into this week's podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed the interview, and with that, we got one more just around the corner. So make sure you follow, subscribe on YouTube, and peace.